So with certain characters that we didn't really expect to get a pretty solid Novaflare overall, I did kind of want to make a video talking about the problems that Novaflare still does have, because while it is a really good system, the fact we have it in general to buff alt characters is good, there still is some problems that they do face, which can actually make the whole thing kind of obsolete later on. So I wanted to make a video talking about it, especially since we did just get a fresh new batch, so while the topic is hot, I want to talk about it, so let's do exactly that. Stuck grinding in Honkai Star Rail? Need Stellar Jades fast? We've got you covered. Head over to U7 Buy, your ultimate gaming hub for save fast and cheap in-game top-ups. Whether it's Star Rail or your other favorite games, U7 delivers instantly and players love it. Check out their Trustpilot reviews, they're actually top ranked. On the Honkai Star Rail direct top-up page, you can recharge your account in seconds. For example, 8080 Honorific Shards cost $99.99 in the official store. However, on U7 Buy, you can see the price is cheaper. When you head over to U7 Buy, you might notice that the storefront display prices currently match the in-game store, but don't worry, the magic happens at checkout. Once you click the buy now button, your total instantly drops to our actual discounted price only. Just pick your server, enter UID, pay securely, and boom, your account is instantly loaded. Want extra savings? Use code PRETSR at checkout for 5% off, perfect for last minute pulls, battle passes, or surprising a friend. And here's a bonus. If you spend $80 a month on U7 Buy, you can grab the Honkai Star Rail Express Pass for only 1 cent, which is nearly free. Click on the link in my description, recharge fast, save more, and keep blazing those trails. Okay, so as I did mention in the beginning, it's really good that we even have the system to begin with. It's a lot better to have it than not to have it, because now there's always a chance for an old character that maybe, depending on the person, really likes or doesn't like, has something to go with. So that is going to remain true. I'm never really going to disregard the fact that it exists, especially since now they did show that they can do it a little more frequently, because the first batch took forever. Like, it was in 3.4, I think. I actually can't remember what it was. I think it was 3.4. Then it took all the way until 4.0 to be 2.x characters, and that was kind of it. But now we're only 2 patches later, and we're getting some 1.x characters, one being a standard, being Welt. So that's actually a really good sign. So a video I made in the past for that kind of is a little more irrelevant in some aspects, but even with this, there are problems that I mainly want to address this video about. That is the whole thing about the underbaked Novaflares. There still really is a problem with selection, which was kind of what my last video was mainly about. That still does kind of hold true, like again, Firefly being an option as opposed to someone like Ratio even. I know the game wants to make money, and I know blah blah blah, money this, money that, but there still should be a case where these older characters do have priority, because if they are good, more people are going to want to get them, they can result in more money. I don't really think Firefly's sales are going to go up or down because she got buffed. If she didn't get buffed, I still think her banner just being there probably would be enough, especially since the buff didn't really change how you play her at all, or really anything. It was just some more damage. Boom. Nonetheless, the selection is still kind of sus, but the main thing is the whole underbaked results. We've had a few examples of this now, mainly in 3.4 and now 4.2, because in 3.4 we got Silverwolf, Kafka, Jinglu, and Blade. At the time it was great. Silverwolf and Kafka are still fantastic. Their normal flares are absolutely great. However, on the flip side, Blade and Jinglu are kind of yikes. They had their chance, they got buffed, but they kind of put him at a competent level, and that competency kind of just declined because the actual buffs weren't like something at a greater scale. So while they were able to do fine, especially with all the HP stuff coming out, they didn't really have too much to keep them to last. Of course, I'm not really expecting characters to get buffed to the point where they are like the top DPS of the meta. Only reason that really happened to Firefly is because she already kind of was when you had the Dahlia, and now just a little more so. That's kind of it. But yeah, the DPS is getting buffed. I don't really see them getting the treatment of being the top DPS, because that would actually impact sales. But I at least expect them to get buffed to the point where they can actually clear quite well at not a really high cost or anything. But yeah, you don't really see Blade and Jinglu clears because they themselves, after their buffs and all this time, especially with like how the game gets harder, is that's just the nature of gacha games, they haven't really held up well. So they got buffed, they were pretty good in that instance, and now they're already kind of back to being irrelevant. Like those characters after their buffs, I honestly think they're like early 2.x level. I'm not even gonna lie. And that was characters that were buffed in 3.x, so that's kind of really bad considering we're now in 4.x. So that was kind of the problem. Now we fast forward all the way to the 4.2 buffs, because I'm not really going to talk about the 4.0 buffs because both of those were really good. Sparkle is insane, Black Swan is insane, so I'm not really going to talk about them because I don't really need to. However, in this batch we had a new batch of 4 characters getting buffed. The biggest winner was Welt himself. Lele, I think she actually does have a few of these problems, which we'll talk about in a second, and then the Ho especially. Firefly, I'm also not really going to talk about too much because she already has the Dahlia, so it's kind of like impossible to talk about her, to be honest. So Welt, he's completely fine. Like, I think he's going to be able to last a while just because he is buffed to the point where he's so good. Unfortunately, a lot of his potential is E4 locked, but it is there, so that's good. I think he definitely got a actual buff at the level of the better characters that were buffed. Then, on the other hand, I don't want to say she is as low as like Jinglu and Blade buffs tier, just because of the sheer potential she does have with Resurgence. You've definitely seen or heard the memes about Zaylee mains being the craziest players of the planet. That remains true, and all the stuff with the buffs definitely feeds them more. And I think with how the way Resurgence works, and you can just get so many goddamn turns, I think just because of the sheer potential of skill ceiling she does have, that these buffs are going to be able to last her a while longer. However, I still feel like that she would be a part of the group that is able to fall off quicker, because now a lot of people can use it as long as you have a solid account with the right teams, but I feel like in a few patches from now that's probably not going to remain true. And then also with characters like Fofo, who also didn't necessarily get a really good buff in any way, shape, or form. It didn't really fix her actual issue. Like pre-buff or post-buff, she's kind of like the same character really, and that's going to definitely bite back later, because now you have this character that is buffed and now there is not really anything that can be done for them. If they're DPSs, it's a bit different because there's always a chance they can get a future character that somehow just magically revives them. Like look at the entire break tip with the Dahlia for an instance, or older follow-up characters with Asheville, although that's more just Asheville being a hard carry. But when it comes to characters like Popo, who's a full sustain, once her full healing and potential is just not able to keep up, which again really never was the problem, it was the fact that she had survivability problems. If enemies start hitting even harder, which they will, and she can't really do anything for the first 1 to 2 turns, it's kind of cooked, because you're not going to get a character that's going to get fixes later, and she's not going to get rebuffed until they introduce something like Super Novaflare, which I guarantee you will be to Firefly first. I actually genuinely bet Firefly is going to be the first Super Novaflare. But that is one of the biggest problems with Novaflare overall. Having a more underbaked buff not only actually destroys the potential of the character even further, in a sense of now they're able to clear, so it looks good short term, but once the time comes and they can't really clear in a lot quicker as opposed to a lot of other characters, it's kind of cooked, because now there's nothing that's going to really help them. Again, for DPS specifically, there's always a chance to get a super crazy support for them specifically. Well, not specifically, but just happens to work. But that's not really something to rely on, as it's going to be pretty apparent that we haven't gotten that for Jinglu or Blade. They kind of just had the characters that existed. Then Hyacinth was kind of like the must-have. Tribute was one of the only other characters to use. Then you'd have like a -1 with Sunday or something. And now they're not really going to have any potential, so they're kind of just there to rot. And I think that's going to be the same case with characters like Fofo and Zaylee now, not Firefly just because she has the Dahlia. And that is going to be something that probably is going to happen in the future unless they decide to actually make more buffs at the scale of Sparkle and Black Swan, who were consistently very, very good buffs overall. There really wasn't a single questionable change. They were all just good. Like Zaylee still has some stuff that's like super weird. Like why does her E1 still have the HP percentage requirement? Why did Fofo not get any like damage reduction or anything? But yeah, it's kind of just like the bad thing that potentially can actually ruin the concept of Novaflare for a lot of characters. Like it is the hypest thing to see one of your favorites getting a Novaflare and then getting absolutely disappointed when you find out that the Novaflare kind of just brings them to like, yeah, they can kind of clear now, and then they fall off really quickly. It's a really bad feeling. Seeing how much work my Blade needs to get close to like a 0 cycle, which I'm gonna say right now, I'm more of an unrelatable part here, but to see how much work it takes to get him to that level despite the investment he does have on his best team is depressing, because like imagine in a world where his actual Novaflare was good, and that's just gonna get harder and harder. It's not gonna get easier. But yeah, that's kind of my whole gripe with the Novaflare system right now. Definitely comment down below what you think about Novaflares in general. If you found this video enjoyable, dropping a like would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the channel or haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, along with all other tips and style content. I'll see you later. Peace out.